Welcome to the Masters in Motion podcast, where we empower and inspire Masters athletes to reach their full potential. Join us as we delve into the world of CrossFit and showcase the strength, resilience, and determination of Masters athletes. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting your journey, this podcast is dedicated to providing CrossFit news, education, and inspiration because we love this sport. Welcome to episode 4, guys. I've got Rick Stevenson here, currently sitting on top of the leaderboard in the Open. How's that feel for now?
I called myself a placeholder. Let's put it that way until the scores come tumbling in tomorrow and Monday. But we're having fun. And like you and I had just talked about, healthy, moving on to another week. But let's dig into the week that we've just had.
Absolutely. So the first thing we've got on the agenda is Rowergate 2023. I am very familiar with the two individuals involved in that. We've got Roman Krenikoff and Jake Lockhart over at Mayhem, who was his judge. I'm going to preface that with Jake Lockhart is the straightest shooting human being I've ever known, the most detail-oriented human being on the planet. There is not an ill will in his body that I've ever seen, having spent an entire 3 months in Cookeville with him. And we're pretty good friends now, and this was really interesting. So tell us what happened. What did you see?
Okay. And again, we'll discuss a couple of these individuals and then certainly focus back on the Masters, which we want to. But with Rowergate, the first was brought up if you watched Pat Vellner's video of himself. And between his set of muscle ups, he thought that he had time to go over and start his rower, turn it on, because he actually said in his video, he goes, "I've read the rules. No one's allowed to touch your equipment. I thought I was going to knock the muscle ups in 2 sets," which is crazy, by the way, at that point in that workout.
Exactly.
Finished 12, went over, turned his rower on, finished 8 muscle ups, back to the rower, and the rower hadn't really turned on. So he said he felt he wasted 10 seconds or so, just started pulling until it actually began to. That was the chance that you took if you made it back like yourself, unlike me, to the rower, hoping that it would start in time. The controversy came with Roman Krenikoff's rower it looked like he sat down and Jake touched the screen after Roman had touched it. And the only reason it was brought up is because Roman had posted the highest score in the world and for the men's division. And it matters because CrossFit only pays out for one spot if you work out, and they're going to scrutinize those videos. I don't think it's honestly that big of a deal. It didn't look like Jake gave him any kind of an advantage whatsoever. Roman was doing the work. Whether the rower was on or the screen was lit up or the calories were beginning to tick off, I think it's impossible to tell that. But it was enough that looking for controversy in a week of news in the Open is what a lot of everyone tends to do. And so we found ourselves with something called Rowergate.
And I think the consensus is similar to you. I watched all the podcasts that it probably didn't make a difference. And if it did make a 1 calorie difference, if that even made a 1 or 2 calorie difference, Roman still wins.
Right.
Because of I think it was 3 or 4 reps ahead. But it is interesting. I remember watching it thinking, I wonder what he's actually doing. If it didn't turn on, maybe after a couple of pulls, maybe Jake was trying to turn it on. I was just curious, why even touch it? What was going on? I also was wondering if Jake was changing the screen resolution, maybe to make it more clear for the video. I don't know. I have no idea why he even touched it.
Well,
but
you have the advantage of knowing him and knowing what a upstanding, solid person he is.
Right.
CrossFit usually takes a week or 2 to go through that and announce who the male and female winners are of each Open workout. So we'll see. At worst, maybe a small penalty. But look, the number that he posted, super impressive. I don't think he's human, honestly.
No, and he can tear the handle off of machines. I was watching his Instagram feed the other day where he was showing Logan Ewing, who's another Mayhem athlete there, what 3100 looks like on the ski erg.
Oh my gosh. Think about that.
What is that? I don't even know. I don't think ski ergs are built for that, but he's another level of animal on those things. That's it. Overall Open participation.
I was able to find some of these numbers off of the Morning Chalk Up site, and I think it's pretty widely, information's out there now. It has been a good year so far for Open participation, and I think it's something that the entire community needs to celebrate, being that the majority of the signups are truly in the age group categories, not just the elite division. I think the number up through 23.1 was over 321,000. That's almost a 9.5% increase over last year. It's still short of 2019's number, or 2018's number, which had over 416,000 athletes sign up. So it has, post-pandemic, started to crawl back to respectable numbers. And as they said, it's the largest, how'd they phrase it, the largest participatory athletic event in the world. So everybody needs to celebrate and enjoy the fact that you're part of this.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what you were also put in our show notes, the numbers by age group sign up in the Open. That raised some of your eyebrows as a case for more games athletes,
right,
with such a higher participation in the age groups. What did you discover there?
Also have to thank Brian Friend, certainly CrossFit's and stat person. He pulled these numbers out, and again, this is all as of end of 23.1, but what it shows, the largest amount of registrations, and this is just the men's side only, and I do apologize for the ladies. There are the numbers that are out there, and we can certainly circle back if any of the listeners at some point are curious. But for example, in the 35 to 39 age category, for just the men alone, there were over 34,700 men signed up.
Wow.
And that is and what his point was, pleading with CrossFit, too little too late, certainly this year, but with only 10 athletes per male and then per female division, 10 out of 34,700 is just 3 basis points, or 0.03%. It's the smallest chance you have when you get to the games. And if you look at that male 35 to 39 leaderboard, it's like walking back in time 10 years ago to a games leaderboard. Froning and Bailey, and just one after another. Panchik's 35 now. Just heavy hitters. Certainly you could say that there's a more deserving than just 10 athletes per age category. For your age category, though, I would want to highlight there were over 15,400 signed up. Wow. So just to move on to quarterfinals, you just need to be in the top 1,500. But again, your odds of making the games, the percentage of that field to go to the games, 6 basis points, or 0.06%. So it's pretty small. And then for our age category, 50 to 54, it's 9,300. So the drop-off does really start, in fact, when you get to 65 plus, 1,550 males signed up. So they have the best odds, technically. 10, the best odds, 10 out of 1,550. But Brian's point was the numbers are not that much different for the women's side. Sure. In the future, bigger venue, different venue, maybe that's what the case can be made for a bigger field. But that's why we're fortunate to have events like Masters Fitness Collective and Legends to be able to showcase the work that the age groups do put in throughout the year, because those fields are larger. They're very representative of the type of athlete that are looking to compete, still want to compete, and can compete at the very high level. Knock on wood, there has been progress made there, and that's great to see.
Strong case. And with the Masters having 2 days plus an overlap day of attention at the games this coming year, they're not going to change the numbers this year for sure, but they'll have 10, and that 35-year-old age group could really fill the stands and get some asses in seats at the games for Masters athletes. Generally, they will go from oldest to youngest in those heats. And getting a lot of eyes watching Masters athletes in an efficient way, in an entertaining way. I think our events are pretty entertaining. With more butts in seats, more eyes on this, and a 35-year-old age group that has men and women that are historical games champions, multiple year games veterans in that heat of 10. That's really interesting this year. And again, hopefully continue to build that momentum for Masters athletes to get more spotlight, be more showcased, get more overall attention, and then build this area of the CrossFit world, this Masters area. And then, of course, from the games, building in the games is great, and then letting that momentum carry forward into the other Masters events. And again, get more eyeballs on that. So I think it's a great thing. I would love to see Froning and Panchik again. As a fan of the sport, watching
Absolutely.
Those guys go head to head with Josh Bridges in there. What an insane. We were at the games. We would finish our events and we'd go back to the corral and grab our stuff and just sneak back out on the field so we could watch them,
over there.
Obviously.
Yep.
Yeah.
It would be turning back the clock. Really.
Yeah.
I think the more participation that they get from these numbers, as they say, if it's truly the community is responding and celebrating the Open and then the other stages, I think that's a pretty good sign I think we have to do the work by signing up, by supporting, and then that will carry through to make the Masters community that much more viable in some of the other fields of competition.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on.
Sure.
23.2. That's what we had this week. On the announcement day, Thursday, I got to tell you, when it was announced, I was very excited. It was fun to have Rich Froning do the announcement. It was all teed up. I think we were all probably 50-50 thinking, let's see, I thought it was a repeat. I think you thought it'd be something fresh. I think that's how what our betting was last week. So I think you win that bet. Is that correct?
Right. Well, I thought it would be something that everybody could do. I had no idea it was that long of a time domain. That full 20 minutes of work. Yeah. 2
long time domains back to back, really, in a 14-minute workout and then a 20-minute workout.
Surprising.
And when it was announced, we've got shuttle runs, burpee pull-ups for 15 minutes, increasing on the burpees. Obviously, we all know that now. By the time this is released, we've all suffered through that. And then to do a thruster that was just surprising, to do a heavy thruster at the end of that. Wow. When it was first released, there was nothing about it that made me happy. I don't know about you, but I looked at it and I just thought, this is nothing that I want to do. There's nothing here that I'm excited about. In the first announcement, I'm like, toes to bar, love toes to bar. Wall balls, power cleans, those are all great. Ring muscle ups, okay, let's do this. We get a repeat. I was really excited to kick off the Open. And maybe that was going to be the first event, but then they decided, hey, before we kick them in the teeth with this shuttle run burpee pull-up workout that they're all just going to hate, maybe let's do this old exciting one. And then the second week is where we're going to open the trap door and they're going to plummet into the dark depths of pain and discomfort.
Get everybody signed up, get everybody excited.
And then
and away we go.
Yeah. Hell, just terrible. The first thing that I thought was interesting were the standards. Or my first questions were the standards, not on shuttle runs. Those are pretty clear. I know that you and I had some concerns. Well, people realize you have to run down and back for that to count as 1 rep, as opposed to the mistakes made last year. I think everyone did okay there. Do you think that was pretty clear?
I really haven't seen that many that have stood out. I'll certainly spend some more time looking through, but I think HQ is probably on the lookout for anomalies like that on the score and any of the scoreboards, and will correct them pretty. You just can't figure it out.
Then when someone does. If there's just insane numbers, which we will talk about when we talk about results. This was a potential specialist workout. But then we've got this overhead, thumbs together, reach overhead, don't touch the bar situation. And there is probably 2 inches of wiggle room there, I think, between fully extended shoulder blades and retracted shoulder blades. But in the end, on this type of workout, I don't think it mattered tremendously. If you could just put your arms overhead without overdoing anything and you can't touch the bar, I think you're good.
I think that's a good bar. Yeah. And that's what we experienced too. You still have to jump. That's the point. You have to get your over the bar to break the plane. You're going to do work no matter what.
And then thrusters, not a hard thing in my mind. A thruster's a thruster. It's a solid movement going through a full squat to getting that bar overhead without re-dipping the knees, which is something in general CrossFit class, when people do heavier thrusters, you see a lot of re-dipping. You just have to correct them. It's no big deal. But there was there's some questions around that. What did you see in your gym, or what did you see online with the thruster standard?
I have to give kudos to HQ for spelling it out as well as they did in the rules. And I think if people take the time to read the rules, which we've talked about, and encourage everybody all the time to do that, so there's no gray areas. You could power clean it, you could squat clean it, as long as it was one continuous motion from below parallel to full lockout overhead. The main point was showing control. And I think we've seen on some videos where some folks take steps or walk around, but that have come to a complete stop, still fully locked out overhead, and that apparently has counted as a rep. Way back when, in regionals at Central East, I remember, and I'm talking years and years ago, they had a 1 rep max thruster, but you were not allowed to move your feet. And it was an automatic no rep with just the slightest of movement. Now it looks like CrossFit has relaxed that now in competition. And again, we're talking about 300,000 roughly people doing this workout. So let's put the weight on, let's give it our best shot, and let's show control, let's lock out. And I think that counted for quite a few individuals.
I think so too. I know that there was some controversy around Vellner's rep in the Open announcement, where he did have a shuffle step in there. And I dug into the comments on that one, as of course there was some questions, some comments around, was there a redip there, or was that shuffle step one solid movement? And CrossFit answered that question multiple times in that thread, that the shuffle step showing not redipping, not an intentional redip, was an okay rep. For me, I like clean reps no matter what. So when it came to my thrusters, I want to leave no doubt whatsoever. And I think I did 5 lifts. On my 4th lift, I did lose my balance and have a slight shuffle step forward. It was probably an inch of a shuffle. And I finished that lift and I thought to myself, okay, I think I'm fine on that lift. I had a video going, but I think I'm okay. But on my next lift, my max lift was 260. I made sure those legs were planted. They weren't going anywhere. And then showing control overhead. And then I really wanted to bar slam, like really wanted to, but it's not my gym. So I just let the bar fall. I think making it easy for your judge in those situations. We were talking before the show that you had a situation and you were watching someone who took a step but didn't show control, but then they did another rep.
I felt so bad, but the control is, I think the control really shows that, if you didn't have control overhead, you could tell as you're bailing it forward. And he did all that work, and you want to give them the rep, but with the bar just flinging forward, you just can't go by the letter of the standards. But if he tries it again, this might be moved by the time the show's released. Wish him all the luck. But it was great. I took a different stance. I power cleaned mine. I didn't squat clean. I just found that power cleaning the weight that I was attempting, which was far less than you, I was able to set myself up and then begin down into below parallel. And then I tended to have the momentum coming out of the squat to lock it out overhead. It felt good.
I'm still impressed that after all that hard work, you're still power cleaning 233 pounds, dude. I don't think the leg went out too far or anything like that. I I didn't want to take the energy and squat clean that. If I didn't have understand. The craziest thing about doing thrusters after all of that effort in part A was there were PRs all over Instagram. Everyone's getting PRs. You hit a PR. I hit a PR. What is it about doing 15 minutes of max effort, really 5K type effort? Like this is run a 5K as hard as you can and then do 5 heavy thrusters in 5 minutes. It's like that, but you're worse because you're incorporating your entire body in this 5K. So come off that. And then we go over and I kicked it. I rested. I didn't really rest. Like I used a towel to wipe off all the sweat that I had all over me because I'm in Louisiana. It's very humid. And then I put a shirt on, and I had to wrestle a shirt on so that the bar didn't slip off. And then I got my belt on, and there was nothing comfortable about getting my belt on. I changed which I will have a pick of the week about shoes. Very specific element that I add to my shoes to help. So I'll talk about that on my pick of the week. But I got all of that, and about the 90-second mark, I did a thruster at 185, and I remember setting up for that thing like it was a max clean. And I popped myself right in the chin on that thruster. On the clean, hit myself in the chin. Finish the thruster because my body just responded in a way that I didn't anticipate. I thought it would feel like 300 pounds, and it felt great, actually. Did you have that experience on your first couple of thrusts? Wow, I'm just fine.
Yeah, my rest was not really rest. It was assembling everything like everybody else here listening to this will attest to, is shoes and belt and trying to pull up the knee sleeves. And the first one, I went a little lighter at about the 90-second mark, and it didn't feel that great, to be honest with you. Each successive lift did, and that's what was encouraging. And I really think we make the joke about it, but maybe as a masters athlete, I just don't warm up as much as I need to from week to week. We were thoroughly warmed up. Your entire body had been incorporated into 23.2A, so that left no doubt that you were ready to right into heavy thrusters, which was great feel overall.
I'll tell you, I think what I'll do this next week for all of my Boulder athletes is I will assign an open workout as their warm up all days of the week, and we'll just see. We'll just go through all the open workouts as warm ups for the actual training session. We're just gonna. I think we just cracked the code there.
Just bury everybody and then expect to lift heavy after that.
Done. Let's do that. Did you have any surprises or strategies, or what were some things that you learned about shuttle runs or burpee pull-ups that maybe you didn't know before this weekend?
I actually judged 2 people before I went, And it was, what I noticed most was after you jumped up and you broke the plane with your chin, it was the immediacy of letting the bar go and just dropping and not riding the negative down. And our coach had talked about that, but watching it in action actually and counting every rep for these other athletes, I tried that myself, and I think that really did help. Look, we all know going into workouts like this, it's just going to be uncomfortable the entire time. But as long as you got into a very machine-like rhythm on the burpees, and that's something I know you've always talked about, you just number of steps, you step up, you look up, you jump, pull, release, drop, step right down into it. It didn't go as, it was uncomfortable. It hurt a lot. And my last set of 10 runs were the slowest I think I have ever shuffled along. But it just, I think overall, the body held up a little bit better than what I expected. So I'll take that as a win along our way to continuing training, check the box and move on.
I picked up the shuttle run. You and I had chatted about it. We had texted each other a couple of times. Right. I watched Noah Olson do his shuttle runs sometime yesterday morning, and I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And I practiced a couple. I sent that video to you, and you sent me a link to some guys in Australia that were doing similar shuttle runs.
Same thing.
And this shuttle run technique was to run about 3/4 of the way, maybe just a little further than 3/4 of the shuttle run, and start to make the pivot at that point and actually be running backwards for a step or two to the line, touch underneath, and then go forward. Go 3/4 of the way across, shuffle, take 2 steps backwards, hit the line, and go. And I found that to be this incredibly fluid and delightful way of doing shuttle runs. I always found the step, pivot, go as this weird stop and go that was really generally uncomfortable. The reach down never felt quite right. So I practiced this shuffle, run 1 or 2 steps backwards. It's really hard to describe out loud, but if you just look at how Noah Olson did it, just go on and watch that, you'll see this interesting side step, back step, cross the line, touch, and then you're already moving forward. You're in this perfect position, already pivoting and already leaning into it. So it was
like a
really
sprinter stance.
Yeah, it was very cool. So I had lofty thoughts of doing this, and then as I was practicing it at the RV park that I'm at, I was just out in the street practicing this. I immediately felt a unique fatigue in my glutes after doing 5 or 10 shuttle runs. I just remember thinking I don't think I want to do this 4:23.2A tonight. I don't want to do something brand new for this duration and then end up cramping in some weird way. So I ended up spending about half of the shuttle doing this new technique, and then the second half of the shuttle runs just reverting back to my standard, which is just a mess of a shuttle run. It's not pretty, but it got it done. But I do want to practice this new technique and really count my steps, figure out how to get shuttle runs to be very efficient for when they may show up again, quarters, semifinals, or God forbid at the games. I love that the Open teaches us new things like that. It was in 2018, as a matter of fact. I happened to be watching Noah Olson do toes to bar I believe it was toes to bar and dumbbell clean and jerks. I think that was a workout like that. And I noticed that he was flipping his grips over the bar, not putting his fingers through the holes on his grips. And I'd never seen anyone do that before. So I tried that in my gym that day, and it changed everything for me on using grips. I was a new person. I couldn't believe it. So
your hand feels a lot more anchored in at that point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The tension's on the strap.
Yep. And there's these interesting things we get to learn when we do these workouts that, now I know I've got a new way of doing shuttle runs that I'm going to work on. So that's fun. So that's what I picked up. Now to the results. What are your thoughts on some of the results?
I'll tell you, personally, as I had said, I think it went about as well as my capacity would let me. I got back into the round of 30 burpee pull-ups, and I think I had about a little less than 90 seconds to go when I started, and I felt still good enough to just really empty the tank. And I battle personally with, I'm always sometimes afraid too much of how bad something will hurt, and it's something that I just work on. A part-time athlete here, to be able to push knowing that, okay, I just had roughly those 90 seconds. I was not going to make it back to shuttle runs, and I had to just drop, jump, step as much as I could, as fast as I could. My back was turned to the clock. I was listening to my judge. I just ran it through as he actually had to tell me to stop. I probably did about another half of a drop down to the floor where I didn't need to because time had expired. So I was going to make sure that I expended every amount of energy I could to finish the workout. So I'll take this as a win, as a learning experience, and file it away and see what comes up next. How about you?
I never want to do it again. No. It was great. From a result standpoint, I was nervous all day. Doing it at 7 o'clock at night at a local affiliate is not my ideal situation. I love doing it at an affiliate. I love doing it in a large group. I just wish it was Friday morning lights, not Friday night lights. So like, just get it done and not have the anxiety build all day. But actually getting there and being around other people really energizes me. There's a lot of adrenaline that's there. I was like you. I was nervous because I knew how much this would hurt. There was no way around it. It's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt. And I had people telling me via text, yeah, I did it. The set of 20 started to really hurt. And in my mind, I'm like, gosh, so it starts to hurt at the set of 20, and you got to get through the 20 then shuttle runs. Then you have to get through 25. And then I see some scores start to trickle in. I see some guys that are getting through the 30s in my age group. I'm like, oh, I'm just grossed out. I just know this is going to be so hard. So I get through that last set of shuttle runs after the 20. I know I've got barely over 2 minutes to get through 30. And I know there's no way I'm getting through the 30s. It's just not going to happen. And I was going as fast as I could, and Coach L at this gym, he's cheering me on. He's just right there, Jason, just tighten up that form, let's go faster, and all of that. And I am just slogging, just machine. I'm not going one drop faster. I can't. And whatever, the workout ends. I got to the thrusters. That went super well. I was really proud of that. It felt great. And afterwards he said, Jason, I hope I distract you. It looked like you were really in the zone on a plan that you had on your burpee pull-ups. I'm like, no, man. There was just no way I could move any faster. My body was at its red line of red lines. And so that's the speed I could go. And I wanted to go faster, but there was not a chance that I was going to move any faster. So it's done. It was one and done. And thank that the thrusters went well, because I would have never wanted to go through that part A again in order to have to retest the thrusters. Yuck.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. No. Yeah, this was interesting that this was Adrian Bosman's programming. He didn't get the chance to inflict his pain on us last week with it being a repeat. He has hinted about having to earn your strength in the past. Not really a hint. People know that's probably the best way to test strength for a large group like this, instead of just a single score once a week type of lift, heavy lift. You have to, if you're strong, great, but you need to work your way through those 15 minutes first in order to do the heavy lift. The running is in every other stage of CrossFit's competitions. It's just nice that we finally were able to put it into the open in the best way you could do that for a large group like this.
Absolutely. And I am a big fan of earning the lifts. I love that. And I love that because when it's just a raw lift, just a straight lift, I know that is going to favor specialists so much, heavy lifting specialists. But when you have to earn it, it's a really nice equalizer. So I can work hard and then I can lift slightly heavy. Yeah, and when we look at the results, I actually went into the results today and I was just goofing around sorting by 23.2A. I just wanted to see what the best of the best in my age group did, and they were just insane on that cardio side of the workout. And then their 4,000th place on the lift, which that's a specialist. And then switching it over and seeing someone place 4,000th or so or whatever, or above that, in 23.2A, but in 23.2B, they're clean, or they're doing a thruster that's just so ridiculously heavy. So it's fun to see that. We predicted that there was going to be some interesting specialists that help shake up the leaderboard. But when it comes down to it at the end, the average of the two workouts, the average of the three that we have so far, all of that leads to a well-balanced outcome at the end of the Open, which then leads to quarterfinals. With that in mind, we have one more to go. And we still have some equipment from the equipment list that needs to be touched.
Absolutely. I'm
looking at the equipment list. We need to touch dumbbells. We need to touch kettlebells, which is curious to think that those might be in the same workout, and plyo boxes and jump ropes, right?
Yeah. Right, jump ropes. Yep.
What?
Having this heavy thruster, I think, takes, obviously, a lighter 95, 65-pound traditional thruster out, which surprises me because, as Dave Castro liked to do each week, to finish an open, incorporate a thruster into that last test. You probably won't have that this week. I don't know if we'd get dumbbell thrusters.
Be so weird. It'd be such an overlap. It would be.
I don't think so.
Yeah, from an art form, it'd be doesn't make sense. Yeah. So
some lunging maybe. We just did burpees, so box jump overs without the burpee in front.
Right. Box step ups with dumbbells.
Box step up. Oh, that would hurt. Along with double unders, maybe.
Yeah. And then kettlebells somewhere in there for some sort of. Like we talked about last time, maybe farmer carry or maybe some sort of goblet step ups. I don't know.
We've had a chipper.
Yep.
And you could 23.2A would be considered a couplet.
Yes.
So maybe a triplet of something. I don't know if he'll use everything on the equipment list. I think in years past, he might not, or it could be considered an equipment list for the just the basics, but other parts or other pieces of equipment could be added for the other stages. But here's what we're starting with. Try to make sure as an affiliate owner or in your own garage that you at least have access to A through F.
Well, make the argument. Looking at the list online, just since we're here, only the climbing ropes and the GHD are said in this list to not be required for the Open. Conversely, everything else is required for the Open. Okay. And again, it's a mystery to me how dumbbells, plyo box, jump rope, and kettlebells will all be incorporated into one kind of workout potentially. And again, maybe they don't use one. Maybe the equipment list comes out before it's finalized. But if I was an affiliate owner that didn't have kettlebells and I bought a bunch of kettlebells to be ready for this, especially kettlebells weighing 16, 24, and 32 kilograms, as noted on the CrossFit site, very interesting. So I think they're going to use it.
Thanks for nothing.
Dumbbells 20 to 70s. Like, what are we going to do with the potentially? So think of anyone below age 45 typically does an RX workout. So you've got probably the heaviest dumbbell, like a 70-pound dumbbell in there, probably the heaviest kettlebell, and I don't know, in 30-inch box. Because it's required 20, 24, and 30 inches, what it says.
Can you imagine? Don't make me carry dumbbells over a 30-inch box.
Oh my God, no!
I'm not the tallest.
No,
and I'm also not the shortest. But I feel for anybody.
No, that is. I'm going to snap something if that happens. That would be awful.
But let's look at one last of the bigger picture here. Again, we'll know soon enough, but we've gone 14 minutes and now 20 minutes to incorporate a lot of pieces of equipment into what I think will be a shorter workout. I would be very surprised if we have 3 longer time domains for the Open. I just don't think that's how he would like to give us 3 different tests.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Could be another 2-parter coming. Unlikely, but could be. Be a way to break that up into 2 shorter efforts. But no, you're right. I think that we've had 2 longer efforts, which is really interesting to have this much left and have it be maybe something 10 minutes or less, 8 minutes or less as a time cap. Those are always really gross when we do things like that. But to imagine, what are we going to incorporate a box in, whether we're either jumping on it or climbing on it in some way, stepping on it, and have that not be a longer workout. But again, you know what? Whatever he brings, we're going to just take it because there's no choice. This is what we do.
No, exactly. And I do not have in front of me where the announcement is going to be this week. I'm not sure if you picked that up.
I got nothing except I think is a Mal O'Brien and Emma Carey. I don't know. I've got nothing on that. We should know this. Come on, Rick. It's a professional podcast. If people are still listening, they're probably going to stop listening right now.
They're going to say, what? You didn't do your homework?
I don't know. It felt like we did, but we just didn't even think about that one. But wherever the announcement it is, by the time it's Tuesday, y'all will know. Another thing we want to do in this next week, I'm going to throw it up on my story on Instagram, is we're going to open the podcast up for some questions. So we want to take some questions from listeners next week. So I'll post that on my story Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, since this podcast will be released on Tuesday. We'll collect some questions. We'll pick a few and respond to them. And if we get a lot of questions, we'll just keep them in the question basket and we'll just pull them out each week. So feel free to DM questions at any time. DM to Rick Stevenson or to me on Instagram. Just make that really clear. This is a podcast question and we will respond with our thoughts and opinions. Rick, do you have a pick of the week?
Right before I do want to throw this in, it's going to be Mal O'Brien and Danielle Brandon.
Oh, good, man. Good.
From CrossFit.
Okay.
And those are probably two athletes that you do not want to try to pace off of, whatever it's going to be. I'll watch it for the event and turn my mind off and go back to think how a Masters athlete 23.3.
Exactly. It's so unrealistic when we get to watch them.
Yeah. So there we have it from Omaha on Thursday afternoon.
All right. Pick of the week.
Pick of the week. Oh, let's see here. I was going to go with, because I went actually in the fourth heat this morning, one thing that I have been working on is a little bit more visualizing the test that awaits you and watching each of these athletes go ahead of me. One, you knew what the stimulus was going to be, how much it was going to hurt. I think you really don't go into any type of a test like this not expecting it to hurt. That's just the base case right there. But from a visualization standpoint, how are you going to execute? I'm thinking about the way I'm going to turn, or the rhythm or the pattern that I want to get into on my burpee pull-ups. And I really tried to put myself in that place to think about it actually before I was going to do it, so that I had something to recall in my head after it got as monotonous as it did. I couldn't control the pace, obviously. The body just slows down as you become more fatigued. You're looking to fight that always. But I think visualizing how I wanted it to evolve in front of me was something that I have been working on. I tried today, and certainly going to try and incorporate that a little bit more as we move forward.
I love that. I am a big visualizer, a big believer in visualizing prior to an event, especially a competitive event. It's like being able to put in the reps without fatiguing your CNS or your body. You just put in all these reps, all this practice, and even prepare your mind for what rhythm, what it's going to feel like, how you're going to get through each one of these different elements. I like to visualize how many steps I'm going to take, when I'm going to get shock, how I'm going to breathe on certain movements, those kinds of things. Anyway, you talked about it. I'm not going to add on to it, but I am a huge fan of that and would second that tip. My pick of the week is these elastic shoelaces that I have. Okay, I'm going to put a link in the show notes, and they're just pick them up on Amazon. They're like $6, and they came in really handy when I was switching from my CrossFit shoes to my lifters in this event. I also use these same shoelaces for my everyday nobles that I just wear out and about. So these are elastic shoelaces that you thread through your shoes, through each one of those. And once you get through to the top where you would tie a knot, there's just this little metal clip that screws together. They're very cool looking. I wish I could show a picture of them. It's very cool looking, very simple. You can have it be somewhat snug, but it makes it really easy to slip shoes on and off. This wouldn't work for your CrossFit shoes that you're going to do shuttle runs on. That doesn't make sense. But for my lifters, I have these shoelaces in there. So all I have to do is slip my lifters on, tighten the Velcro, and I'm good to go. It's just the easiest way to put on shoes, period. And again, I like to slip my shoes on and off when I come in and out of the RV 1,000 times a day. My shoes are coming on and off hundreds of times, or thousands of times, because that's how many times I go in and out of the RV. And these silly little shoelaces that a buddy of mine recommended are the best. And if you have kids that need to just have these little elastic shoelaces, so cheap that I just buy a few pairs of them and test these things out, because they're amazing. And it's just the silliest pick, but they came in handy in this particular workout. Not that tying my shoes or untying my shoes would have been a big deal, but I'll tell you this, Rick, my shoelace came untied on my second set of shuttle run. What kind of rookie?
Did you double knot
Of course
them?
I did. I double knotted them.
Okay.
Of course I did.
But wait, they still came
I don't know what
untied.
happened. I put them on. I double knotted them. I'm like, good, they're secure. This is gonna be no problem. And on my second pivot, on my second set of shuttle runs, my shoelace, I can feel it loosening. I'm like, what the heck? So I bend over, I fiddle with it, and it's totally coming undone. So I double knot really quick, and now my right shoe is slightly loose the whole time on shuttle runs.
Oh,
and that would matter if I was.
You 10 seconds.
It did. It cost me a couple seconds and a little bit of energy in my brain. And if I was sprinting these shuttle runs, it would have mattered. But I was shuffling like an old man in tremendous amounts of pain like everyone else. So that didn't matter.
Well,
come on.
I'm intrigued with the shoelaces, because I think from the video, if you'd watch the video that we had today, I was sitting on the edge of my plates I'd kicked off my nanos, but trying to get my lifters on, which have abnormally long laces, and I was sweating over them, trying to tie them. I must look like an absolute mess.
I got you.
So I got you.
I
will be now. And since you highlighted my dog last week, I will tell you that for your everyday shoes that I keep out of the house there, I found him chewing on my shoelace today, of all things. And he's not a puppy, so I don't know what that was about. But I'm about a half a length of a shoelace down. So think I'm in the market for elastic shoelaces.
When we get off the podcast, I'm going to text you the link.
You got
and
me.
Everyone else,
there you go.
It'll be in the show notes. With that said, guys, thanks for tuning in to the Masters in Motion podcast, where we help you embrace your potential for remarkable fitness at any age. If you found this episode to be helpful, we'd truly be grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast app. Your support helps us reach more listeners and grow the Masters community. Until next time, get bolder, not older, guys.